Okay, now we're now going to finish up the today's January the 9th. We'll be finishing up. We just did the Genesis chapter 25 in verses 27 through 28. And now we're going to we did all the way from Genesis 25, 27 through the end of Genesis 26. Now we're going to pick up and on this video and finish up today's date, the 9th of January's reading and insights, chapter 27, and we'll go all the way to chapter 28, verse 5. And when Isaac was old and his eyes were dim so that he could not see, he called Esau his older son and said to him, "My son," and he answered, "Here am I." Now, just so you go ahead and understand that Isaac is he wants to give a blessing. He wants to give basically the blessing that goes to the firstborn. But really that's supposed to go to Jacob. Remember, back in Genesis chapter 25, verse 23, it was already revealed that actually belonged. But here's Isaac trying to, his favorite son, his preferred son, he's trying to give it to him instead of giving it to Jacob. He said, "Behold, I am old, and I do not know the day of my death. Now then, take your weapons, your quiver, your bow, go out to the field, hunt game for me, and prepare for me delicious food such as I love." Isaac is letting his appetites control the things that he does. We do the same things in life. Sometimes we let our emotions dictate how we respond to the world, our appetites. We let the lust of the eyes. We let worldly philosophies, all sorts of things we let dictate what we do in life. So we have him, he's kind of like delicious food such as I love. And you're just kind of like, okay, Isaac, really? This is how you're going to justify this in your mind? You know that God has already orchestrated that Jacob would have the birthright. And now Jacob already has it, although it was kind of captured through Jacob's trickery. But now we're dealing with a blessing that you typically give the one with the birthright. He says, "And bring it to me so that I may eat, and my soul may bless you before I die." So Isaac's kind of taking a long shot and saying, "Okay, let me give you a blessing at least, and maybe this will make up for some of this." And now Rebekah was listening when Isaac spoke to his son Esau. So Esau went to the field to hunt for game and to bring it. And Rebekah said to her son Jacob, "I heard your father speak to your brother Esau. Bring me game, prepare for me delicious food that I may eat it and bless you before the Lord before I die. Now therefore, my son, obey my voice as I command." Which, she is asking Jacob to sin. By the way, I don't think Jacob puts up much of a fight. Jacob, already got the birthright, and he wants this blessing that the one with the birthright should rightfully have. "Go to the flock, bring me 2 young goats, so that I may prepare them delicious food for your father, such as he loves. And you shall bring it to your father to eat, so that he may bless you before he dies." So Jacob said to Rebekah his mother, "Behold, my brother Esau is a hairy man, and I am a smooth man." So Jacob already realizes it's going to be hard to trick him I know he can't see very well, but if he even decides to feel anything touch me, he's going to know that I'm not his brother. "Perhaps my father will feel me, and he will seem to be mocking him and bring a curse upon myself and not a blessing." So evidently the patriarchal blessing was huge, and there could also be a curse in it. And we see this in the patriarchs era. We see this, for instance, Noah pronounces a curse on Ham as a result of him not honoring Noah when he uncovers his nakedness. So he he wants this. He doesn't want a curse from his dad, but a blessing. His mother said to him, "Let your curses be on me, my son. Only obey my voice and go and bring them. Let your curse be on me." And sin costs you more than you're willing to pay, keeps you longer than you're willing to stay, and takes you further than you want to go. Yeah, that did happen. I mean, at the end of this, you're going to see that, Jacob, it breaks her heart, but Jacob, he ends up having to leave to protect him from Esau's wrath. But also, we'll see in God's providence that helped him to actually put himself in a position to meet Leah and Rachel. So, verse 14. So he went and took them and brought them to his mother, and his mother prepared delicious food such as her father loved. And then Rebekah took the best garments of Esau, her older son, which were with her in the home, and put them on Jacob, her younger son, and the skins of young goats she put on his hands and the smooth part of his neck. Just like I'm a question, like how hairy was he that this actually was a similar feel. Nonetheless, she put the delicious food, the bread which she prepared, into the hand of her son Jacob, and he went into his father and said, "My father." And he said, "Here am I. Who are you, my son?" Jacob said to his father, "I am Esau, your firstborn," which, is a lie. Listen, God had already promised that, and by the way, there was a long history of God keeping his promise to Abraham, displaying it to Abraham multiple times, already reconfirming it to Isaac multiple times. And Esau already knows about the story. Esau and Jacob were the first 15 years of their life, Abraham was still alive. And so no doubt they'd even heard possibly the stories from even Abraham's own mouth about God's faithfulness. God had promised this to be Jacob. Jacob did not have to make God's will happen. Jacob just had to be godly and follow. That's why earlier we saw in chapter 26, the Lord really charges him and says, "Obey my voice and keep my charges and commandments and my laws," just like Abraham. But he lies. He lies right to him. It's never right to lie to get what God has already promised. You don't have to act underhanded. "I have done as you told me. Now sit up and eat of my game, that your soul may bless me." But Isaac said to his son, "How is it that you have found it so quickly, my son?" So although Isaac was old, he still, his head was still there. His mind was still sharp. He answered, "Because the Lord your God granted me success." Wow. He pulls in Yahweh to his lie, which, wow, it's one thing to lie, but then it's one thing to kind of, to pull Yahweh into your lie, which is one of these things that you have, this is, indicative of, I would say, wolves in sheep clothing, is pulling God into a lie, trying to sell Jesus like he's a lottery ticket. So he pulls in, he not only lies to him, but then he basically attributes, his sin to God. Terrible thing. And in this, it was interesting. Here's Jacob, who the nation of Israel is going to start with, and you're going to see, he's got all sorts of sin right here, right? All sorts of sin. And you're going to see over the next coming chapters, God breaks him. You'll see that God, in his interactions with Laban, he comes back before he meets Esau. He fights, wrestles with the Lord all night. The Lord breaks him. The Lord breaks him so much that he has a limp the rest of his life. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Verse 21, "Then Isaac said to Jacob, 'Please come near, that I may feel you, my son, to know whether you're really my son Esau or not.'" One has to take a gulp at that moment and wonder the jig is up. "So Jacob went near to Isaac his father, who felt him, and said, 'The voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau.'" I guess he wasn't really good at disguising his voice. And he did not recognize him because his hands were hairy like his brother Esau's hands, so he blessed him. So he said, "Are you really my son Esau?" He answered, "I am." Lying once again. He has a chance to tell the truth, like he lies once again. If he would have told the truth about who he was, And I mean, God had already ordained that it was going to be Jacob in the end that would receive the blessing. You don't have to act underhanded to accomplish God's will. So, but let's keep going. Then he said, "Bring it near to me, that I may eat of my son's game and bless you." So he brought it near to him. He ate. He brought him wine. He drank. And then his father said to him, "Come near and kiss me, my son." So he came near and kissed him. And Isaac smelled the smell of garments and blessed him and said, "See, the smell of my son is as the smell of the field that the Lord has blessed. May God give you the dew of heaven and the fatness of the earth and plenty of grain and wine." So he says, let you have plenty. Just like the right of the firstborn, let you have plenty. Let peoples serve you. Nations bow down to you. Be Lord over your brothers, and may your mother's sons bow down to you. Cursed be everyone who curses you. Blessed be everyone who blesses you. So remember, in Genesis chapter 25 and verse 23, it was already told by an angel to Rebekah that that this is actually going to happen with Jacob. Jacob's going to have this blessing. He's going to have the birthright. The promise of God through Abraham, from Abraham, is going to pass through Jacob. And here you go, Isaac. Isaac thinks he's accomplishing. God, Isaac is under the impression that he is giving this to Esau. But God is more powerful. And God, you cannot thwart what God... I mean, we've already seen so many things that could have gotten in the way of the promise. And by the way, these are, as Moses is delivering this to his people, to the children of Israel, they go in the promised land, and they know that their descent is through Jacob to Isaac to Abraham. They start to realize that nothing can thwart what God has decided to do. So as we go into this promised land, and as we go into this promised land, and even later on is the from Esau come the Edomites, which are attacking enemies towards Israel. They can have confidence and know they're like, no, wait a minute, the Edomites don't have rights to the land of Canaan. This is something that God has passed this through Isaac, through Jacob, not Esau. So it's important history for them to know. As soon as Isaac had finished blessing Jacob, then Jacob had scarcely gone out from the presence of Isaac his father. Esau his brother came in from the hunting. He also prepared delicious food, brought it to his father, and he said to his father, Let my father arise and eat my son's game, that you may bless me. His father said to him, Who are you? He answered, I am your son, your firstborn, Esau. Then Isaac trembled violently. Now people will sometimes think he trembled violently because he was angry, but I'm not so sure if that's really the reason why he trembled so violently. I think he trembled at the fear of God, that he had gotten in the way, tried to get in the way of what God was going to do. But yet God is God and we are not. God is omniscient. He is all-knowing. And in his all-knowingness, I'll put this in here, he is all-knowing. In his all-knowingness, you can't outsmart God, you can't outmaneuver God, you can't outdeal God. So he trembled very violently. He said, Who was it then that hunted game and brought it to me? And I ate it all before you came, and I blessed him. Yes, and he shall be blessed. As soon as Esau heard these words, his father cried out with an exceeding great and bitter cry and said to his father, Bless me, even me, O father. It's interesting. All he wanted was the blessings. He's a worldly man, ungodly man. He did not want the blesser. All right. He did not want God. sometimes it's us. We want the blessings and not the blesser. We want the goodies and not God. And he said, verse 35, the brother came deceitfully, and he has taken away your blessing. He has taken away your blessing. No, actually, God had already decided that. But Isaac is, not having the right perspective at this moment. Esau said, is he not rightly named Jacob? Yeah, he is. He is living up to his name, the heel grabber, right? I mean, he rightly is named Jacob, for he has cheated me these 2 times. He says, he took away my birthright, and behold, now he has taken away my blessing. And he said, have you not reserved a blessing for me? And Isaac answered and said to Esau, this is kind of funny. Behold, I have made him. So this is the blessing. So he's like, what's the blessing you got for me? He says, well, here it is. Behold, I have made him lord over you, and all his brothers shall I have given to him for servants, and with grain and wine have I sustained him. What can they do for you, my son? And Esau said, Father, have you but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me, O father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. You recall back in Hebrews chapter 12, verse 16, he's really indicative of an ungodly person with a lot of, just because you have a lot of emotion doesn't mean that you are really repentant. Remember, he just wanted the goodies, but not God. And Isaac the father answered him and said, behold, away from the fatness of the earth shall your dwelling be. That doesn't sound like much of a blessing. And away from the dew of the heaven on high. By your sword you shall live, you shall serve your brother, and when you grow restless, you shall break his yoke from off your neck. So it doesn't sound very positive, except kind of, in the end here, you kind of see that, you may break his yoke off your neck. You're going to see that kind of later on. And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing with which his father had blessed him. And Esau said to himself, the days of mourning of my father are approaching, then I will kill my brother Jacob. Does that not sound familiar? Does that remind you? Do you see any repeated patterns? You see, Esau wanting to kill Jacob. Does that remind you, of Genesis 4, where you have the line was going to come through Abel, and then you have, Cain killing off Abel, and then it, the line goes through Seth. But the words of Esau, her older son, were told to Rebekah. So she sent and called for Jacob, her younger son, and said to him, behold, your brother Esau comforts himself about you by planning to kill. Isn't this interesting? When people sin against us, you can either forgive them and receive the comfort that God gives, or you can act unforgiving, and the comfort you receive is the idea of how you can get revenge back. This Esau comforts himself with this idea of revenge because he has a heart of unforgiveness. When people have sinned against us, if we receive comfort by thinking how we're going to get even or stew over what they've done to us, then we are acting just like unholy Esau. We are living for the flesh. We have a false kind of repentance. Now, therefore, my son, he says, obey my voice. She says, obey my voice. Arise, flee to Laban, my brother, in Haran. So, earlier she had said, let the curse be on me if he realizes, well, there was a curse on it. Like, as a mom, she was going to miss her son. She was going to miss Jacob. Jacob was, her right-hand person. And, Jacob, he's going to be there for a while. This takes us over to chapter 28. And we go to verse 5. Then Isaac called Jacob and blessed him and directed him, you must not take a wife from the Canaanite women. No Canaanite women. Arise, go to Padan Aram, to the house of Bethuel, your mother's father, and take as your wife from there one of the daughters of Laban, your mother's brother. God Almighty bless you and make you fruitful, multiply, that you may become a company of people. You can, now this is what we want to see. Isaac is, he's on the right side now. May he give the blessing of Abraham to you and to your offspring with you, that you may take possession of the land of your sojourning that God gave Abraham. I mean, right on, Isaac. You're getting it. In your final days, you're getting it. Thus Isaac sent Jacob away, and he went to Padan Aram to Laban, the son of Bethuel, the Aramean, the brother of Rebekah, Jacob, Esau's mother. So, let's see. I think I have something that can show you that. Let's see. Maybe this. Let's see if I have a really good map to show you for that. I don't really think well, you can kind of see, Haran is way up here, up north. That's where to Padan Aram. I wish I had a better map that I could have loaded in here for you. So that ends our reading right here, actually. So he sends him away, basically to Laban, which would be Rebekah's brother, who we'll discover in the future, kind of a trickster himself. What a sense of irony. You've got Jacob the trickster goes with Laban, who's quite the trickster himself, and the Lord breaks Jacob of that. So someday, breaks Jacob of, this, hill grabber, cheater, to someone who realizes his protection comes from God. And then even later, Jacob has a different name. Jacob is no longer a heel grabber, but he's one that fights with the Lord in a good way, one who wants the Lord. So we'll see that come later on. We're going to get into that part. Comes over in chapter 32. When his name gets changed from Jacob to Israel, that God fights, he has a new name. And what I love about all this is we have all this family dysfunction. I mean, a family, you see they're playing favorites with the children. You see bitterness. You see unforgiveness. You see hatred. And all this threatened to, get in the way of the promise. But none of this can get in the way of what Yahweh wants to do. He has a promise. He's going to bring it through. And now the good thing is this, that any family can avoid these problems if they'll just repent, if they'll just live, if they'll live according to the word. This whole entire family situation could have been thwarted if they would have just obeyed Genesis 26, 25, 23, and recognize that God was going to pass this on through Jacob. And in any family, when there is when there's a mom and a dad living in faithful covenant, and then you've got parents who are walking in this discipline and instruction, without provoking them to anger. You have a much better chance of not falling into, this family's dynamic. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to get perfection, but I will say this: there's a greater chance of following His word, that things will go much better if, living in His Word looks for the family looks like this world, right? And when you're not living for the Word, not obeying the Word, letting what you think you get more